Hey guys, happy Monday. Happy last Monday of November. I am Abra Kurt and you are watching Sparked. Welcome and thank you so much for tuning in. I am a certified integrative life and wellness coach and lifestyle designer, and Sparked is my weekly lifestyle series and its own vibrant online community that meets right here in the comments of the show, where each week we light fires around personal growth, wellness, and the world around us. Now, if you're a dreamer, a doer, or just anyone in search of a more meaningful, fulfilling, and joyful life, you are in the right place, my friend. So say hi, let me know you're here, and start connecting. I see Scott, I see Vicky, Merry Monday, all is absolutely right. Say hi, let me know you're here, and start connecting. Now, last week was our pre Thanksgiving Day show. I hope everybody had an amazing holiday. As you're hopping on and saying hi and letting me know you're here, let me know if you guys watched the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade, because we talked about that on last week's episode. It was a favorite tradition that we shared. And if you watched the parade, let me know, and let me know what your favorite part was. Hi, Georgie. Hi, Donna. It's so great to see you here. If y'all watched the Macy's parade, let me know what your favorite segments were as you are hopping on and saying hi. Hi, Trish. Happy Monday. Yes, it is a good evening indeed. If you watched the parade on Thursday, let me know what your favorite part was. It was a little bit different this year. I hope you all had an amazing holiday with friends, with family, however you celebrated in your bubbles. And if you watched the parade, let me know your favorite part. Scott and I tuned in. He's saying the Hamilton skit ruled. Yes, it did. I thought they picked a great song from Hamilton. Vicky says her favorite part was the Hamilton song and sketch too. Yes, that was one of mine as well. I thought they picked the perfect song with the Schuyler Sisters song, and what a wonderful time to be alive right now, right? Trish says yes, she watched the whole thing. I also loved Pentatonics. I think they're such a great singing group, and I loved that they were singing from the Hallmark Countdown to Christmas Advent calendar float. It was just two of my favorite things together, and it was one of my favorite parts of the show. Donna says, look, Hamilton, you guys, hands down, Hamilton was like the big hit. Absolutely, absolutely. I also loved Dolly Parton, y'all. Dolly Parton is one of my sheroes, and even though she wasn't in New York and she was taped from somewhere in Tennessee, it was awesome to see her singing a song from her new Christmas album. So that was just a great way to start Thanksgiving and kick off the holiday weekend that we are wrapping up now. It is the last Monday of the month. Hello, Dawn. It is so great to see you here. It's the last Monday of the month, you guys, and you know that means it is time for my Let's Get Lit virtual book club discussion. Now, you'll know that we are discussing 100 Ways to Be Kind by Teresa Chung if you read the show description. And you'll also see links to support our content and community, because it is through the support of viewers like you, yes, that is true, that I am able to devote the time to creating new and unique and inspiring and informative content week after week after week to do these new hour-long live shows for you all. So it is our support that allows us to keep going. So you will see links to support our show, our content and community, and you also know that each week here at Sparked, we pay it forward with a 10% contribution to a wonderful charity doing important work in our local communities and around the country. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this week's charity later in the show. And if that all sounds great to you, please send up some hearts and hit that share button, because we are going to be talking about 100 ways to be kind. Yes, I'm seeing some more pentatonics and some big ups for leftovers. Um, Send up some hearts and hit that share button, because in social media land, I bet all of us know one or two people in our social media feeds that could use a little tip or two on being a kinder person, right? So send up some hearts, hit that share button, because Tonight, I'm going to share my favorite takeaways and kindness tips from Teresa Chung's book, 100 Ways to Be Kind. I'm going to talk about the ways that being kind actually benefits us. I'm going to share a 4-step plan to cultivating a lead with kindness mindset in all things that we do. And I'm going to share some awesome kindness resources that are some of my favorites that you guys can look up and keep the kindness fun going at home after the show ends. And yep, we're making it a permanent part of the show. Just like the quote of the week, we're going to do trivia in every single show. And even a show about kindness, you guys, I found some trivia questions for you guys. So we are going to play a couple of rounds of acts of kindness trivia as well. So I am super excited to dive in and get started. Thank you all for hitting that share button, for sending up those hearts. And that brings us to the time of the week that I know you love and look forward to as much as I do. It is time for the quote of the week. The quote of the week. And now, when we do the book chats, you guys know that the quote of the week always comes from the book itself. And this book, you guys, has so many great quotes about kindness. I just want to share them all. Just want to share them all, but I had to pick just one for the quote of the week. Georgie says, quote, yes, we love the quote of the week. So there were so many great quotes to choose from in 100 Ways to Be Kind. But I chose the quote that started the chapter about ways to be kinder to nature because that chapter was a favorite of mine in particular. The author breaks the book up into 4 sections, and I'll talk about those in a little while when I talk about my favorite takeaways. But one of the sections is ways to be kinder to nature, and that's where this week's quote of the week comes from. And the author of this quote is the Chinese philosopher and founder of Taoism, Lao Tzu. And this is the quote of the week that I want to share with you guys. Love the world as your own self. Then you can truly care for all things. Love the world as your own self. Then you can truly care for all things. I thought those words were just so beautiful because I think one of the most important things we can do, right, is to reflect on ways that our own actions have an impact on the world, on the bigger picture, right? That the little everyday things we do, the ripple effects of all those combined by all of us on this planet, how they affect the big picture. And so that quote got me thinking about that, how loving the world is actually a reflection of how much we love ourselves. But it also made me think about how sometimes when people are unkind, it comes from a place of not loving themselves enough. And so it was a reminder for me that another one of the most important things we can do is to show other people how much we value them, how much we care, and how much we value others, because then that ripple effect will have an impact on them and exponentially throughout the world, right? We're just going to spread those good vibes all over the place. So I wanted to share love the world as your own self. Then you can truly care for all things because it's a great way to remind us all that it's not just about us, it's not just about our own family, it's about the ripple effect we have in this world. And cumulatively, it can be huge, you guys. It can be huge. All right, so before we dive into the content, I want to ask you guys now to come back to the comments and I want you to share your one of your favorite ways to spread kindness, right? I think we all do little things, right? I know every single person who tunes into this show has a kind, good heart, and I know you all have some creative ways or just some of your favorite ways, right? Whether it's volunteering, or giving to, charity, whatever it is that you do. kindness to animals, whatever it is, I'd like you to share your favorite way to spread kindness around in the comments. I want you to share your favorite way to spread kindness in the comments. And I can't wait to read what you all have to say because I know we have some amazing people who tune into this show. Donna said, "Oh, the quote reminded her of the butterfly effect." Yeah, that's a great connection to make, Donna. Yeah, I didn't think about that, but it absolutely does, right? The little thing that we do can have an impact all the way around the world, right? Because we have talked here on this show very much about how we are all connected. So, share one of your favorite ways to spread kindness around in the comments. I can't wait to see what you guys have to say. Scott says kindness to animals is a must. Absolutely. And that is why we are the parents of rescue fur babies here in our house. Gosh, if we could only save them all, right? Our house would be full of them, all different kinds. Horses and baby piglets and baby goats and all the things, right? That grow up to then, be huge, take up even more space. But we have our four little fur babies. And what are some other ways that you guys love to spread kindness all over? I know me personally, I spend a ton of time every day just thinking about how I can leverage my skills as a life coach and the host of this show to help people and make people's lives and this world a better place. Um, I also choose not to eat meat because I feel like a lot of the ways that animals are farmed contribute to some, uncool practices in some of those places. So I chose that out of a kindness to animals place from my heart. And I bet I can name another way that everybody who tunes in here, and I know everybody who has checked in and said hello, I know something that we are all doing right now to show kindness to others and spread good vibes and not spread something else around. And I know we are all wearing our masks right now, right, you guys? We are all wearing masks right now. And that is one of the most outward displays of caring about other people right now that we can show. When we leave our houses and we have our masks on and we're out in public and we're not complaining about it and we're not griping about how we have to put our mask on to go into the supermarket for 30 minutes or wherever, right? We're wearing our masks and it shows that we care about other people and we want people to stay healthy and safe during this pandemic. So I think we're all doing our part on that front right now. Georgie says she loves to bake her kids, grandchildren, and neighbors their favorite cakes and cookies for no reason. Georgie, I wish I lived closer to you. I would love to have some of those cakes and cookies for no reason. That is a great one. Yes, yes, I love that. Just doing something that you know people will love and enjoy for no reason, right? Not expecting anything in return, just out of the goodness of your heart. Donna says, looking for things to genuinely compliment people about. Yes, and the genuinely compliment, right? That's so important. Not just the generic, like, oh, you look so nice, right? But it's like, oh my gosh, I love the sparkle in, the hair clip that you're wearing. It really brings out the color of your eyes or whatever, right? But being specific and genuine in our compliments is so meaningful to the recipient, right? Because we know that you took that extra time to actually, notice something specific. So, Donna, I love that one. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. All right, you guys, as you are sharing some other ways that you love to spread kindness around, I am going to ask you the first trivia question of the show. First trivia question of the show. Trish says, letting people know that I know where they are coming from with their issues and feelings. Yes, that is so important, that human connection, Trish. Thank you for sharing that. Like checking up on people, letting them know you're there for them. I've seen so many posts go around on social media about, asking people if they're struggling to reach out, right? If you're struggling, just reach out, like I'm here. And I've said that myself, right? I'm guilty of this too, right? But it's hard, right, for sometimes for people to just proactively reach out. So that act of like understanding of reaching out to others is so important. Sometimes when we take that first step, it means so much more, right? Thank you, Trish. All right, first trivia question of the night, and we're playing Acts of Kindness trivia. So, how many of you have heard the phrase random acts of kindness? Okay, I bet probably most of you have, right? Random acts of kindness. Well, it didn't just appear out of nowhere, okay? It started somewhere. So, the first trivia question of the night is: what state and in what decade did the Random Acts of Kindness movement start? In what state and in what decade did the Random Acts of Kindness movement start? Yes, Vicky has heard of Random Acts of Kindness. All right, I want you guys to take your guesses. What state and what decade started the Random Acts of Kindness movement? And while you guys are putting your guesses into the comments, I am going to start talking about the book, 100 Ways to Be Kind, because that is what we are here to talk about tonight. And I just want to start with the biggest takeaway for me from this book. The biggest takeaway for me from this book was that being kind is good for us, not just the recipient on the other end, right, of our cookies and cakes, of our compliments, right? It's good for us too to be kind. And in fact, kindness has an impact over all four of our pillars of wellness. And you guys have heard me talk about our four pillars of wellness. And in case you've forgotten what they are, those are mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual wellness. All right, I see some guesses coming up here. Scott saying 80s in California. All right, who else has some guesses here? In what state and in what decade did the Random Acts of Kindness movement begin? All right, so being kind is good for us. Being kind is good for us, not just the recipient of our kindness, and it impacts across all four of our pillars of wellness. How does it do that? Well, let's start with mental well being. Okay, mental well being. Being kind actually reduces our anxiety, reduces anxiety. So if we're like worked up about something, or if something happens and we're just about to like have a reaction, right? And instead we just like take that breath and let it out and respond, right? And lead with kindness, which we're going to share some tips for in a little while. It actually reduces the anxiety. It kind of diffuses like all of that, whatever is happening inside us, right? So being kind actually reduces our anxiety. So that's how it benefits our mental well-being. Our emotional well-being, okay? Being kind improves our own mood. So when we smile, when we compliment someone else, when we reach out, when we bake those cookies and cakes, right? When we think about how we can leverage our skills to help someone else, right? It's improving our own mood. It makes us happier to think about how we can do things, or when we are just kind to other people. It improves our own mood. And it also improves our overall relationships. Our overall relationships improve when we are kind. And that kind of seems like a duh, right? But we don't think about it, right? If we just walk around in a state of like, you know, just agitation, or whatever, maybe it's not even like outwardly aggressive or, upsetting, but if we just soften and lead with kindness, our relationships improve. I see some other guesses coming up here. Trish says 90s in New York. All right, we've got two different decades, two different states. Who else has some guesses about where the Random Acts of Kindness movement started and when? And I've got two more pillars of wellness to share, and then we are going to answer that trivia question. So, being kind also impacts our physical well being. And as we've also learned from past episodes of this show, right? Like, it's all connected, right? What's going on up here, what's going on here, is going on all over, right? So our mental state, our emotional state affects our physical state. So if something is improving those, it is also improving our physical health in ways. And with our mental state and our emotional health improving by being kind, our physical health is improved. Our immunity is actually boosted by being kind. Stress, anxiety, those things lower our immunity, right? They make us more susceptible to sickness and illnesses. So being kind reduces our anxiety and actually improves our immunity. It also lowers our blood pressure because high anxiety, a high strung emotional state, right? All of those things, reactivity, right? Raises our blood pressure. We can actually even feel it sometimes, right? Like if we have like a reaction to something and we can just feel that like physical response, right? That physical reaction. Kindness diffuses all of that, reduces anxiety, improves our own mood and relationships, lowers our blood pressure, and boosts our immunity. Vicky says she would include the pay it forward idea. She actually had a gentleman pay for her groceries one time and was flabbergasted and grateful. She tried to turn him down, but he insisted. That is such a great story. I love stories like that, right? Where people just do something like, yeah, it's the, random acts of kindness, the pay it forward, right? All right. Last pillar of wellness that being kind benefits, and that is our spiritual wellness. And that is because leading with kindness, being kind, right? It actually deepens our sense of purpose and meaning, deepens our sense of purpose and meaning, and our sense of contribution to the greater good. And that impacts our spiritual well being. Georgie says she thinks it dates way back, maybe in a southern state. Oh, because the southern, like, gentlemanliness and ladies. Yeah, I can see that. All right. So we had some great guesses, you guys, some great guesses. I am going to tell you a little story about the origin of random acts of kindness, and this will answer our trivia question. It all started in a restaurant in Sausalito, California in 1982 when Anne Herbert scrawled the words, "Practice random acts of kindness and senseless acts of beauty" on a placemat. From there, it spread to bumper stickers. It was kind of low key at first. But then in 1993, a book was published called Random Acts of Kindness that was inspired by it, that featured true stories of acts of kindness. And it set off a chain reaction. So, newspapers and TV stations and radio stations all over the country started talking about random acts of kindness after that book was published, more than a decade after Anne Herbert first scrawled it across a placemat. Yes, Scott had the right state and the right date. I think he said, yeah, he said the 80s in California. He knew. He had it all going on. All right, yeah, he said boom, and that was a total guess. So, 93, the book is published, and then also in that same year, a professor in Bakersfield, California, gave a class the assignment to do a random act of kindness, which also then unleashed another flood of great stories. So this concept continues to spread. As Vicki says, we also call it pay it forward. We hope it will carry on until kindness touches and changes us all. So that is how the random acts of kindness movement started in a restaurant, scrawled on a placemat in 1982. Thank you, Anne Herbert, because I know that has changed a lot of lives. All right, you guys. So we are talking about. Scott said he had no inside info from the host. That is true. That is true. I do not let him know what the trivia questions are. Just the way he doesn't share his trivia questions with me, his music trivia questions, I don't share these. So it's totally a guess. I, on the other hand, never get any of his questions right. He's just really good at this stuff. And so, yeah, he's the trivia king. All right, you guys. So we are talking about 100 Ways to Be Kind by Teresa Chung, and I'm sharing my favorite takeaways and kindness tips from the book. And one of the other things I love about this book is that the author divides the book up into four sections. Okay, four sections with different kindness tips in each of those sections. And they're categorized by 25 ways to be kinder to ourselves, 15 ways to be kinder online, which frankly should be required reading before anyone signs up for a Facebook or Twitter account, 40 ways to be kinder to others, and my favorite chapter, 20 ways to be kinder to nature. So that all adds up to 100 ways to be kind. And I don't have the hours, and I'm sure you don't either, to sit here and let me read all 100 ways to you. So I picked my top two kindness tips from each section that I am going to share with y'all tonight. And I'm going to start with my top two favorite tips about being kinder to ourselves. Because we talk a lot about that here on Sparked, about self care and loving ourselves first, and that just shines our light brighter for everyone else in our lives, right? So, my top two tips and takeaways from this book about being kinder to ourselves. The first one is a different take on how we get up in the morning. And Teresa says we should rise and sparkle. Rise and sparkle. It is like she had a little window into my heart when she wrote this book. And the foreword in the published edition, she was actually revising this and writing more of it during the pandemic. So this was just published. I don't have a physical copy of this book, it is on my Kindle because from time to time I get pre-publication digital copies of books to read and review, kind of based on the work I do. And for the most part, I'll read them, I'll write little reviews and post them for the publishers to share. And that's really all. I might make the recommendation if a friend asks about a specific kind of book or something and it's a good one that I've read. But I've never picked one of these books for my Let's Get Lit pick of the month before. But I did with 100 Ways to Be Kind because it just struck me, so deeply, so deeply. And so many of the things I read in this book sounded like things that have come out of my own mouth from time to time that I felt like I could have written it. And I just felt like a deep kind of connection with this author. And so, rise and sparkle, you guys. Rise and sparkle is my first favorite tip that I wanted to share with you guys from the book. And it's about the way we get up in the morning, the way we get out of bed, right? Not hitting the snooze alarm, not complaining about how early it is. It is rising and sparkling and being grateful to the universe for giving us another amazing day on this planet to live this life we have and spread some kindness around and do great things with this life we have been given. So we are going to rise and sparkle, right? Rise and sparkle. All right, I loved that one. That had to be my first tip that I shared. Number two, my second takeaway that I'm going to share from the Be Kinder to Ourselves chapter is comfort your body. Comfort your body. And we talk about self care, a lot about the ways that we pamper ourselves, that we let ourselves slow down. But it's not just about the self care piece, it's about taking care of our physical health, our actual physical bodies. And that being a way that we show kindness to ourselves. Because when we let our physical health go, right, when we ignore our physical health, right, we know what can happen, right? You ignore, your dental health and you end up with cavities or a root canal or something needs to happen. And then there's pain and suffering down the road. Or we ignore, that little ache, or we don't exercise enough, or we don't stretch out. And we start getting those little, like, aches and pains and things that can be avoided if we just paid a little more attention and took a little bit better care of our physical bodies. And I know I need that reminder so often myself, so often myself. But it's a great way to remind ourselves to be kinder to ourselves. Think about our bodies, take care of our bodies. And I'll say the other thing I love about this book is it's not just like a list of 100 tips, right? She talks about the tip but then she actually has a take action section that follows each one that illuminates for us how to bring that tip to life and make it happen in our own lives. So it's not just a like, oh, rise and sparkle. It's like, here's ways that you can actually rise and sparkle. It's not just comfort your body, it's a take action section with ways that we can actually take action. Like, remember to brush our teeth, right? Remember to have our annual checkups, right? Pay attention to those little aches and pains. Vicky says rise and sparkle. Oh, frozen sparkle. Yes, darn autocorrect. It's really silly how that happens sometimes, right? Yes. As she gets older, Vicky says she can relate to that more and more. She's grateful for each and every morning. And I have found that the older I get, I'm more of a morning person. I was never a morning person when I was younger, but the older I get, I'm becoming more of a morning person. And I think also having the flexibility to work from home has made me more of a morning person because I'm not trying to rush out the door to get somewhere and fight rush hour traffic and all of those things by a certain time. And so I sort of savor that time in the morning more these days. So, yeah, Vicky, I agree. Thank you for sharing that. So the take action section in this book is great because it gives us sort of tangible ways that we can bring these tips to life in our own lives. We've talked here before about like the why, what, and how of things. So Teresa Chung gives us the how in this book, and I really, really love that. So I'm going to move on to the second section, and that is 15 ways to be kinder online. My top two from the 15 ways to be kinder online. And like I said, I think that section should be a required reading for everybody with a social media account. Um, but here we go. So, my two favorites from that section are number one, comment and share with love. Comment and share with love. And I would also add and post with love as well, right? We've talked here before, and this is what I said. Like, I just feel such a connection to this woman because these are so many things that I've, said in different ways and that we've talked about on the show before. But comment and share with love and post with love, right? We talk about not bashing the things that we dislike, right? But praising the things that we love. And that is one great way to be kinder online. Comment and share from a place of love, not from a place of trying to counteract something, and I've been trying to be really mindful of that. So even, during things like the election season or when we post, things that other people may disagree with, right? Posting from a place of this is what I love about this, not this is what I dislike about somebody else's thing, but this is what I love about my thing. And sometimes that invites people, right, to chime in their own, 2 cents about why they dislike your thing. And we can go back and forth all day on that, but the important thing is to remember to lead with kindness and never let those things devolve into unkindness, name calling, and end with hate and, all the things. And if the other person lets it devolve into those things, well, that's on them. And that's what the unfriend and unfollow buttons are for, which leads me to my favorite tip number two from the ways to be kinder online section. And that is to simply sign off. Sign off. Give yourself a break from it from time to time, right? Give yourself a break from it. Um, Take a day for digital detox on the weekend, right? A lot of us put our phones away after a certain time of night, like at, the dinner table or from then on, or, even if some of us have to go back to work or, do some things in the evening, like there's sacred time, right? And not just with families, but to be more present with ourselves as well. For those, of us who may live alone, right? Just being more present with ourselves and detaching from our devices and all of the digital and online stuff for a while, right? Just sign off. Sign off. All right. Section number 3 was about 40 ways to be kinder to others. 40 ways to be kinder to others. And that's a long list. That's a long list of ways, and they were great. It was hard. It was really hard to whittle down to just two to share with you guys tonight, but that's why there's a whole book out there if you guys want to explore further. But my two favorite tips from the 40 ways to be kinder to others are: number one, see the person behind the job. See the person behind the job. And that means all the jobs, right? It, the cashier, right? It's not their fault maybe that the price rang up wrong or that it's taking too long to check out and our impatience, right, in those places. It's not the poor customer service person on the phone, right? Like today, for example, I had candle labels delivered because it's that time of year and I have to make more product to fill orders. And I had candle labels delivered and I just hit repeat, on an order that I'd placed before. Same label, I didn't change a thing. And they printed my labels on the wrong paper. And it's not just the wrong paper, but it's like the wrong label. So it's like the orientation is all wrong and the sizing is all wrong and they're cut off in weird places. And it's like my 8 up labels on a page, but they're printed on the wrong label page. And so tomorrow I'm going to have to call my label printer and have a conversation with a customer service person and explain to them why this job was done incorrectly. And I will remind myself that it is not their fault, regardless of how frustrated I am, because now my customers' orders are going to be delayed because my labels were printed wrong and I'm going to have to wait for them to reprint and reship and for them to get here. So the person behind the job. See the person behind the job, whether it's the cashier, whether it's the person on the other end of the customer service line, right? Whether it's the delivery people or, the trash collectors, right? People, who we have started, I think, to actually see more because of the pandemic and have a greater appreciation for people whose jobs can't just be done from home behind their computers all day, like so many of us have the benefit of. But these people who are still out in the streets, picking up our trash, delivering our packages, who are still in the stores, making sure we can check out with our groceries to feed our families, all of those things are still happening. And so seeing the people behind those jobs is one way to be kinder to others. And I love that Donna's tip applies here also to give somebody a genuine compliment. And so I always try to do that, in the checkout aisle, even if it's just to say thank you. And maybe there's nothing that's coming to your mind to compliment somebody about, but even to just say thank you, or to be nice to the person who's waiting behind you in line, or to let somebody, if you have a cart full of things and they've got like two, let somebody go in front of you, right? Like just being more mindful and seeing people in our situations more. Trish says, realize you have had an awful day and should not share anything that day. Yes. Yeah, maybe that is a great tip, Trish. That is a great tip because sometimes it's when we have bad days, right, that we just lash out. And sometimes it's with the people who, live with us. And I know I've been guilty of that in my life. But sometimes that's when we, let loose online sometimes and post something unkind, or we're quicker to like fire back a comment on somebody else's thing. So, yes, sometimes not sharing is the best way to be kind. All right, my second favorite tip from the ways to be kinder to others is shine your light. Shine your light and give others permission to do the same, right? Give others permission to do the same. Shine your light and let that light shine on others as well. Lift up others by shining your own light in this world, right? It's the Marianne Williamson poem that I think I have read to you guys before, right? About who are we to kind of shrink and, not share ourselves with the world, right? It gives others permission to do the same. Even if it's sharing struggles, right? Even if it's not just shining our own light, but if it's sharing of ourselves in some way, giving others permission to be open and shine their light or share their thing is really, really meaningful and a great way to be kind to others. All right. Now, my favorite chapter in this book was the 20 ways to be kinder to nature because I think that's one that gets overlooked sometimes, right? We think about, yes, we need to be kind to the people in our families and in our lives and, who we see in the checkout line, or the person who delivers our mail and our packages. Like those things come more easily, more naturally to us. But we don't always think about, other than maybe, yes, our pets or animals, like how our actions can have an impact on the environment and the bigger world around us. And that's why I shared this week's quote of the week that I shared at the beginning of the show. And that's why this was my favorite chapter of the book, about being kinder to nature. And my two favorite tips from this chapter were: number one, love animals. Love animals. I mean, who doesn't anyway, right? And some people don't. I think, it will be wonderful to see rescue dogs. And I just read today, you guys, there's going to be a cat in the White House in January. So I'm super excited to see the kitty that ends up in the White House in January. So love animals. Love animals. Even if, your house is full or you can't be a rescuer, there are ways that we can love animals in our lives and make a difference for them, whether it's donating to shelters or animal rescue organizations, right? Whether it's making choices in the kinds of products and food that we consume that leads to kinder practices for animals who are raised for those things, right? So many ways to love on animals in our lives, even if we're not fur parents ourselves. Scott says, yeah, kitty in the White House. I know our kitties are all excited about that. All right. And my second favorite tip that I want to share from the Be Kinder to Nature chapter is reduce your plastic footprint. Reduce your plastic footprint. And I think we've probably all heard the phrase like reducing your carbon footprint, right? With like, using your car, maybe walking more, or, doing the things that we do. But this one is about reducing our plastic footprint, because you guys, so much plastic ends up in like the ocean and hurts animals, right? This is one way, this is like a twofer. This is a twofer. This is a way to love on animals, and this is loving animals and reducing our plastic footprint at the same time, because it's not harming all of those sea creatures who, end up like consuming plastic, or, it ends up, around their wings or necks, or all of those horrible, images that we know we've seen, about how plastic ends up in our water, in the oceans. So reducing our plastic footprint, right? It's all about little things like reusable water bottles, right? I mean, remember when like the plastic water bottles, like the one-off, they were everywhere. Cases and cases and cases people would buy water by, and now it's about reusable, right? There's so many cool, fun, reusable water bottles. I have my own, water bottle that I bring up to, my office every day, and it measures how much water I drink. Vicky says recycling, yes, reducing our plastic footprint. Even when we use plastic things like packaging and things like that, making sure that we're recycling, that we're reusing in places where we can, right? But that we're separating our goods and recycling appropriately and doing all the things to reduce our plastic footprint. I know there are a ton of places around here. Restaurants have taken to, and I mean, just like that, it was like, I think this was like a Save the Turtles kind of thing. And people love us some turtles, right? And it was about not using plastic straws, like disposable straws in restaurants anymore. And it was like overnight. And I mean, we haven't been to restaurants now to eat inside in a really long time. And so with takeout, obviously we're just drinking with our glasses at home. But I remember when we were still going out to eat inside restaurants, that it was like overnight, like all the disposable straws were gone. And we have our travel straws that we would take with us to restaurants. And sometimes we would leave them behind and forget, right? And so, but over time, we got used to that and didn't leave them behind as much. But yeah, we actually have our own reusable straws. And so things like that, right? Even like reusable paper goods, right? Like not using disposable napkins at home and things like that, right? There are so many ways to reduce our footprint of plastic and paper and carbon and all things, and be kinder to nature. So, those are my favorite takeaways from the chapters in the book. And that brings us to our second trivia question, our second acts of kindness trivia question of the night. And that is, who knows date, on what date National Random Acts of Kindness Day is celebrated? On what date do we celebrate National Random Acts of Kindness Day? And I'll give you guys a hint. It's really, really close to another holiday that's about, love and feeling good and showing our feelings for others. So I hope that was a hint. The date is somewhere around that one. That's my hint. It's close to another holiday that we celebrate with feelings of love and showing our appreciation for others in our lives. The date on which we celebrate National Random Acts of Kindness Day. And I will share the answer. Give me your guesses in the comments. I will share the answer to that trivia question in just a minute. But first, it's time for another favorite segment on Sparked, and that is Moment of Joy. Moment of Joy. Scott says February 5th. Vicky says February 12th. Oh, you guys are thinking. So I will let you know you are thinking the right holiday. You are thinking the right holiday. So keep those guesses coming, you guys. What date do we celebrate National Random Acts of Kindness Day? Meanwhile, while you guys are guessing, I'm going to share this week's moment of joy. This week's moment of joy. And it has everything to do, you guys, with my favorite chapter from this book, 100 Ways to Be Kind, and that is being kinder to nature. And my favorite tip from that book was loving on animals. And this week's moment of joy is all about loving on animals. And so it's about this guy named Sterling Davis. Sterling, he even has an awesome name, right? Who doesn't love the name Sterling? It's like Randall from This Is Us, right? The actor Sterling K. Brown. I love that name. So Atlanta resident Sterling Davis he's a rapper, you guys. He's a former rapper, and he was on a break from his rap tour when he applied for a job at his county's animal shelter, scooping kitty litter. And he just wanted to stay busy, make a little money while his tour was, on hiatus for a little while. And he always loved animals. He had his own cat at the time named Rick James. So Sterling was an animal lover with his own kitty. He applied for a job at the shelter, and he got the job, and he started helping them with their trap, neuter, return program, which is trapping feral cats, spaying, neutering, vaccinating them, and returning them back to their community caregivers so they don't repopulate and just keep spreading more stray and feral animals around. So he started doing the TNR, they call it, program in Atlanta communities when he came to a realization one day. And, he was learning about the program, and he realized, like, there's no other guys doing this, and I'm not seeing really any ethnic diversity either. Where are the men? And he asked, where are the black people? He's a black man, Sterling Davis, Atlanta rapper, helping to control humanely the feral cat population. And he's like, where are the other dudes and black people? And he asked the shelter, where, this is, I'm not seeing anyone else who looks like me. And they said, well, you're the only one. You're the only one. And this is a big city shelter, right? So his answer was, there's just you, their answer. So he decided to not go back on tour as a rapper. He decided not to go back on tour. He was going to devote all of his time to animal rescue, and he came up with the name Trap King. Trap King, because that's what TNR is. It's trap, neuter, return. And so it's about humanely trapping them to vaccinate and spay and neuter and then release them back into their communities. So 5 years he worked at the shelter and was trained by the huge Best Friends Animal Sanctuary out west. He founded his own nonprofit, you guys, his own nonprofit, Trap King Humane Cat Solutions. And his goal with this organization is to change the stereotypes about men in cat rescue and bridge the communication gap between black communities and predominantly white animal welfare organizations. So to bring more diversity and change the stereotypes about men in cat rescue. Now, my husband is a cat man. My husband is a cat man, but the stereotype is like the cat lady, right? And, men, I don't know, men are dog people, I guess. I don't know. Sterling's goal is to change those stereotypes to bring more diversity into the animal welfare community. And you guys, he's not on tour anymore. The money dried up from his rap career. He sold his belongings, bought a conversion van, and was paying for cat surgeries to support his nonprofit. He has eventually developed a partnership with the Atlanta Humane Society, who they are now well aware of who he is and what he's doing. They are offering free spay and neuter surgeries. Free spay and neuter surgeries. And Davis is now running his Trap King Humane Cat Solutions out of an RV. He has three cats named Bowie, Demita Joe, and Alanis Musette. So they are all named after musicians. And he hopes to travel the country in his RV with his cats, promoting his humane message. He's also pushing, you guys, for the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts to start offering a TNR badge for trap, neuter, return. And his motto is to change the stereotypes about men in cat rescue. You don't lose cool points for compassion. You don't lose cool points for compassion. You guys, my heart grew 6 sizes when I read about Sterling, and I will share the link to his animal organization in the show notes, and you can peruse the pictures of him cuddling kitties to your heart's content. So send up some hearts for Sterling Davis, for Trap King, Humane Cat Rescue Solutions, and the incredible work that he's doing. Started in Atlanta and is now spreading all across the country. You guys, I love animal rescue stories. It's all about being kinder to nature and loving on animals. All right, we had some great guesses for what day do we celebrate National Random Acts of Kindness Day. We have a February 12th, we have a February 5th, we have a 16th, and we have a 10th. Mm. Close, but no cigar. The closest was Trish with the 16th. February 17th. February 17th, you guys, is National Random Acts of Kindness Day. So mark your calendars now for 2021, February 17th. Do a random act of kindness that day. Pay it forward. Mark your calendars. All right. I said I was going to share a 4-step plan for cultivating a lead with kindness mindset. Because it's easy to read a book about 100 ways to be kind, right? Talk about these things now, devote a whole show to it. But in the moment, right? Like sometimes we just react or we forget, right? And we don't always lead with kindness. Yes, Georgie says, you're awesome, Sterling. What a cool story, Scott said. Yes, we love Sterling and his cat rescue organization. Okay, you guys, a 4-step plan for cultivating a lead with kindness mindset. So, how even when it's hard to remember to lead with kindness, 4 ways to start cultivating a lead with kindness mindset. Tip number 1, and this is not from the book, you guys, these are mine as a life and wellness coach. So, tip number 1 is to do all things mindfully. Do all things mindfully. I bet some of you have heard me talk about before we do anything, we enter the space, we do the thing with purpose and intention. And when we remember our purpose and intention for whatever interaction we're having or whatever space we're in, we are there mindfully. And it allows us to remember our reason, right? Our reason for being there, our reason for interacting with this person. And that helps us keep that, that kinder self present, right? So do all things mindfully with purpose and intention. Tip number 2, remember to respond versus react. Remember to respond versus react. And that's when, something negative happens, or you see something online, or somebody cuts you off in traffic, or somebody cuts you off in the supermarket line, right? And your first reaction is to like, pew, or, do something else, right? And take a breath, right? Count to 10, whatever it is for you, but just take that moment and instead of reacting, right, which is that like gut, like this is just what happens, just take a breath and respond. And sometimes not responding, right, is actually the right answer in most of those situations, right? I mean, somebody cuts us off in traffic, maybe we mutter under our breath and are like, you know, turn up the radio, sing it out, whatever you have to do, right? But cultivating a lead with kindness mindset is not, like flipping off the other driver or cursing them out, right? Road rage is a real thing, you guys. And I know, it escalates and people have ended up like shot and, killed from road rage incidents. So imagine what kind of world we could create and cultivate if we all started leading with kindness in all things, in all things. Okay, tip number 3. I've talked about core values on this show in the past, and tip number 3 is about making kindness one of your core values. Because we talk about how leading with our core values should be present in all things that we do, in our work that we do, in our relationships, right? In all of the ways that we show up in the spaces we're in our communities, right? In our organizations, in our faith communities, in all of the ways that we are present for people. We want to lead with our core values, and making kindness one of those core values is a great way to cultivate that lead with kindness mindset because it's always present. It's always there for us, right? Like kindness is a core value, right? Like for some people, maybe, and we all have our own list, right? It's not just, you don't just have one, right? You have a whole list of core values. So making kindness one of those in the same way that maybe brave is, or being creative is, or, productive, or whatever your core values are, adding kindness to your core values list. Trish says music has been a lifesaver during COVID-19 stress and political atmosphere. Yes, music. Music is a great way to, you know, remind us just to tune out the negative, right? Turn up the radio and sing it out, right? Do our music, our music healing. All right. Tip number 4 for cultivating a lead with kindness mindset is about flexing our empathy and compassion muscles. All right. Flexing our empathy and compassion muscles. And putting ourselves in the other person's shoes for a minute. We don't know why people do the things they do. We talked a little bit at the beginning of the show about how people who are often unkind, often don't like themselves very much. So it comes from an insecure place. It comes from a place of not liking themselves. We don't know why that guy cut us off in traffic. I don't know, maybe he's rushing home for an emergency, or, who knows, right? But let's try the empathy, seeing something from somebody else's perspective. We don't know why things happen the way they do, but flexing those empathy and compassion muscles is a great way to start cultivating that lead with kindness mindset. All right, it is time for the last trivia question, of the evening. And this is related to one of the resources I'm going to share in just a couple of minutes. So, the last trivia question of the evening is, what company's motto is do the kind thing? What company's motto is do the kind thing? All right. While you guys are guessing what company's motto is do the kind thing, I'm going to share some of my favorite kindness resources if you guys want to check out and, keep the party going at home after the show wraps up tonight. And the first one I want to share, we've talked a lot about random acts of kindness tonight, right? Random acts of kindness. And you guys, did you know that there is actually a Random Acts of Kindness Foundation? There is a Random Acts of Kindness Foundation. And their web address is randomactsofkindness.org. This will be in the show notes that publish tomorrow. But their mission is to make kindness the norm. To make kindness the norm. I love that. I love that. Oh, I almost forgot. I wanted to, before I dive into the resources, while you guys are guessing what company's motto is do the kind thing, I also wanted to share this week's charity. This week's charity. And you guys, I've made a decision about a recurring charity here. And I know you guys have heard me talk before about Save the Children and the sponsorship that Scott and I have of a little girl named Skylee in Kentucky through Save the Children. And I have decided that every Let's Get Lit episode of Sparked will be dedicated to Save the Children's literacy work in Appalachia. Because that is one of the programs that Skyly benefits from through our Save the Children sponsorship. And frankly, it is one of the programs most needed. Um, I may have shared a letter with you all that we got from her a while back, and she's 8, and there were some, very simple words, right, that are misspelled. And there's a real literacy gap there, a real literacy gap with a lot of these kids, particularly the kids that are benefiting from Save the Children programs. So, starting tonight and every month moving forward, every Let's Get Lit episode, our charity, our 10% charity, will go to Save the Children's literacy programs in Appalachia because that's where our sponsored child benefits from those programs. And it's where the literacy gap in this country is the widest. So, Save the Children literacy programs in Appalachia, that is this week's charity. 10% of all contributions to support the ongoing work of this show that allows me to keep creating fresh, new, relevant, interesting, and inspiring content, new episodes week after week after week. You guys allow that to be possible with your contributions. So if you haven't already, please consider a contribution to the show tonight. And I don't think I actually also forgot to mention the thank yous for the past week. I want to give a huge shout out to Jane, to Donna, to Georgie, to Vicky, and to Rose for your generous support over the past week. It is contributions from you guys that keep the show running. And this week, 10% of contributions will be going, as they will every Let's Get Lit episode, to Save the Children's literacy programs in Appalachia. All right, so I'm going to continue with the resources while you guys are making your guess about what company, what corporation, what company's motto is do the kind thing. And I already shared the Random Acts of Kindness website. And maybe you guys noticed I normally just wear a plain black top for these shows, but tonight I'm wearing a shirt that says, Be the reason someone believes in the goodness of people. And this shirt comes from one of my favorite companies called Om and Ah. And they are based in London. They have a distribution center here in the United States as well. And all of their tops have these amazing positive affirmations on them. And be the reason someone believes in the goodness of people felt like the right kind of top to wear tonight. So this is from Om and Ah. And you guys, they literally have an entire collection based around the quote, in a world where you can be anything, be kind. And it is called their Be Kind collection. And I will share a link to that in the show notes that we'll publish tomorrow. Scott is guessing REI. Great guess. Great guess. Keep them coming. All right. One other kindness resource I want to share is for those of you who have Netflix and Amazon Prime Video, there is a great documentary series called The Kindness Diaries. The Kindness Diaries, and it's available on Netflix and on Prime Video. And it's literally about this guy who travels the world on a motorcycle, relying on the kindness of strangers to get from one place to the next and to eat and to have shelter and all the things. But then at the end of the show, he pays that back. They don't know who he really is. He pays that back to those people, to that community. The Kindness Diaries. You guys, you can stream it on Netflix and on Prime Video. And the last resource I want to share. Oh, Vicky says Kind protein bars. Scott says REI. Vicky says Kind protein bars. And Vicky, you are right. The company is actually called Kind Healthy Snacks. And the last resource I want to share is the book by the founder of that company. And he wrote a book called Do the Kind Thing. And I bought this years ago, you guys. He's an entrepreneur, and this book is all about his philosophy of, running a company doesn't have to be all about the bottom line. It doesn't have to be all about the bottom line. You can run a company that does good in the world and still turns a healthy profit and employs people and does all the things and has ethical practices and makes the world a better place. And this book is all about his philosophy to think boundlessly, work purposefully, and live passionately. And he is the founder and CEO of Kind, and that is Kind Healthy Snacks, Vicky's Kind Protein Bars. So she answered the trivia question correctly. All right. Yay, Vicky. All right, you guys. Thank you so very much for tuning in to tonight's episode, the Let's Get Lit episode, where we talked about 100 Ways to Be Kind by Teresa Chung, and I shared some of my favorite tips from the book. I want to share a little sneak peek at December with you guys before we sign off for the night. And that is, I want to share December's theme and the book that I've chosen for December, if anybody wants to read along. So, our theme for December, as we are heading in, Vicky says the first time she's ever gotten trivia correct. Oh, there's a first time for everything. Congratulations. Kind, healthy snacks. Um, we're heading into the holiday season, you guys. Tomorrow is the 1st of December. It is not only the last Monday of the month, it is the last day of the month. Tomorrow is December. It is hard to believe. And we are heading into the season of the holidays, regardless of, whether we're celebrating Hanukkah or Christmas or Kwanzaa, or we don't celebrate any of those things and just celebrate New Year's Eve or whatever it is. But there's a plethora of holiday happenings coming up in the month ahead. And so the theme I have chosen for December is wonder and joy. Wonder and joy. Because I think this season is all about reconnecting with that sense of who we were maybe when we were kids and it was a magical time of year. And in that vein, I want to share that my choice for the December Let's Get Lit book is Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. And for those of you who know that Elizabeth Gilbert might sound a little bit familiar, she's the author of Eat, Pray, Love. Eat, Pray, Love, that like phenomenon of world travel that came out years and years ago. Big Magic, this book was published in 2015, but I've never talked about this book publicly, and it had a big impact on me. It's about creative living beyond fear, but it's also about tapping into that innate sense of wonder and joy in all of us. So I thought this was a perfect complement to my theme for the month of December and the book that we will be discussing the last Monday in December for our next Let's Get Lit discussion. All right, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Thank you so much for being part of the 100 Ways to Be Kind discussion. And remember, pay it forward, do some random acts of kindness. Mark your calendar for National Random Acts of Kindness Day 2021, which is February 17th. And in the meantime, be good to each other, be good to yourselves. I love you guys, and I will see you here next week, same time, same place, to kick off our Wonder and Joy theme for December. Have a great night and a great rest of the week, you guys. Bye bye.